When we talk of early Christian art, we are generally talking about a period of the first 4 centuries after Christ and work made in that time. The Byzantine, however, is a style, and it's associated with the eastern city of Byzantium, which becomes the eastern capital of the Roman Empire. Constantine, after he converts to Christianity, moves his capital to the eastern city of Byzantium and renames it Constantinople. And that is right here. This becomes known as the Second Rome. And it was, for a long time before that, a Greek colony since the 7th century BCE. When Constantine takes Byzantium as his new capital, he essentially turns the Roman Empire into a Christian empire. And this is a significant change because it has an influence over the rest of Europe. And indeed, for the rest of this class, or until we hit the non-Western sections of this class, we'll be talking about Christian art. It also means that the emperor of the Roman Empire is now anointed by God as the leader of the Christian world. A leader being divinely appointed is, of course, not a new thing. We've seen this in the Near East, and other Roman leaders as well claimed divine or being divinely appointed or connected to the gods. But this is the first time it's not a pagan god that is giving the power to the leader, but rather a Christian god. Strategically, you can see that Constantinople is in just about the very best place in terms of trade and access to the rest of the Christian world. Here we see Constantinople. It is right in between the Black Sea and the Aegean Sea and the Mediterranean. It essentially is the point where Europe meets Asia. And so it was able to control land and sea routes. The elite who lived in Constantinople became very, very wealthy. And they viewed themselves at the time as Romans. Of course, they were a very eclectic mix, but being part of the Roman Empire, they did see themselves as Roman. Meanwhile, on the Italian peninsula in, essentially the first Rome, if this is the second Rome, in the first Rome, things are not going very well. Areas were subject to constant invasions, and there were religious controversies and infighting. This was a huge contrast to the relative security that you could enjoy in Constantinople, which was a city that was protected by high and thick walls and around that a moat. In addition to that, they were defended by the imperial army and the navy. So the wealthy elite of Constantinople become very wealthy patrons of the arts, and Constantinople becomes a cultural city with an influential style that combines many different styles, local styles, to create a distinctive Byzantine style. And this style of art was influenced by both Roman and Greek traditions, as well as Syrian, Palestinian, Egyptian, and Persian art. So what I've set up here is really a contrast between the eastern and western halves of the Roman Empire. In the east, it is very prosperous and very secure. In the west, however, we have disorder and chaos. When Justinian rules in the 6th century, he goes back to Italy and reconquers the area overrun by Ostrogoths in 539, and he takes over Ravenna, this city in the north, in 540. Under Justinian, the Eastern Empire, which had rose to political and artistic prominence, brings their style and influence over to the west, to the Italian peninsula. So we start to see the Byzantine style throughout the former Roman Empire and take hold especially in the north of Italy. When Justinian comes back to Ravenna, he funds a large centrally planned church that I'm showing you here, and you're about to watch a video about San Vitale, the church that Justinian funds. And so I won't say too much about it, but you'll notice that the outside is very plain in terms of the material. We see terracotta and brick. However, we see a very complicated plan that is essentially a octagonal, centrally planned building with radiating chapels, these little small apses that come out of the main centrally planned space. And here's another view in which you can see that that plain material of brick and terracotta is contrasted by this very complex geometry of the layers of spaces that we can see from the outside. And it gives us the impression that there will be a similarly complicated interior. Here I'm showing you the interior view of that space. And one thing that I think is overwhelmingly apparent is that the Byzantine style is characterized by gold, glistening surfaces. The entire interior is completely encrusted with mosaic tile. And you'll be hearing more about what mosaic tile is, but all of the imagery is created by these clusters of little tiles that create pictures of Christ, of saints, of stories about the Old and New Testaments, all created with these tiny little shards of glass tile. If we look into the apse, we see Christ throned on a globe, and the two murals, the two mosaic images that you'll be hearing about are flanking the apse, so they're here and here.